Hello everyone, welcome back to Marvel Mania. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And today we are still in the MCU. We're going to take a look at the second Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, The Incredible Hulk, the one that very few people really talk about anymore, and that
like this movie.
has the least to do with what we're doing right now, although finally we had a reference and direct connection back to it with Civil War.
And we almost did an Age of Ultron. Abomination's supposed to be in the opening scene.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Schedule's good line up.
It's going to be weird when we get to Civil War, because you and I just watched that together not too long ago, and we were having a little bit of a non-recorded commentary ourselves, so we're going to get to that, and we're both going to say things, and we're going to be like, oh yeah, we just heard each other say that just real recently.
Yep.
Anyway, this is a movie that I certainly like, but it's the one that stays with me the least. Like, I don't tend to remember this. I've only seen it probably 2 or 3 times.
I probably watched it a bunch around, like, when it first comes out, like, leading up to, like, Iron Man 2 and stuff like that. Like,
back then we used to do that.
Yeah, I had the time to do that, and
I didn't own it for the longest time. And I've never been a Hulk guy, so I wouldn't have thought to buy it until I was doing this.
Well, and I'm a Hulk guy when it comes out. I talked to you about this off camera, but, like, I realized that, like, when I start YouTube, I'm a Hulk guy, because I'm hip deep in Peter David's Hulk, and I love Peter David's Hulk. I don't really care about any other Hulk. I just care about Peter David's Hulk. So, like, I don't know. But, it's, when it comes out, it's one of the best superhero movies we've ever had. Like,
that's true.
Looking at everything that we've watched, this is better than anything we've watched pre-Iron Man Marvel-wise. Well, not X2, obviously.
Yeah, and forgetting all the fascinating psychology, it was really easy to look at this movie and be like, okay, here's all the course corrections you made from looking at what Ang Lee did.
Yeah.
Today's commentary is brought to you by Star Wars, which does not yet realize that it's going to be owned by Disney, just like Marvel, not too far from now. Anyway,
and suits. It's never an appropriate time to wear a suit.
Ever. It never is. In fact, Disney didn't own Marvel yet.
Nope.
When this came out.
Avengers is the first movie that comes out after Disney buys them, I believe, and Iron Man 3 is the... No. Iron Man 3 is the last one that is distributed by anyone else, but I think Avengers is the first one post the Disney buy.
Because the Disney buy happens as early as 2010.
Yeah. Maybe.
So I don't know about that.
Avengers is the first one that's actually affected by. We get out.
Maybe so. I'm not sure. I don't remember that, so I'm not going to speak to that. But
yeah,
but I know
Iron Man
2010 is the
been,
year.
Yeah.
And this is still 08.
Yeah, I remember there being something with Avengers. And Iron Man 3 is distributed by Paramount, so like that's the last.
It was a distribution thing, yeah. But
I feel like Avengers is the first one that like Disney actually has their hands on. But maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe so. I'm not sure. Anyway, well, let's go ahead and get into it. If you want to watch it with us, get out your DVD or Blu-ray, however you want to watch it. Get it past all the menus and get it to timestamp 0. Get ready to press play when I say now. And let's go ahead and get into it. Here we go. Everybody, please press play right now.
Well, yeah, that would make sense because you'd be making Cap and Thor in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Come out in 2011, so yeah, Avengers would be the first.
You know, a lot of people kind of expected Disney logos on these and stuff, and that never happened.
I don't know why anyone expected that.
Yeah,
Disney doesn't do that with any other like studio they have.
Yeah,
that's not them.
I think a lot of people just don't realize. In a way, I think a lot of people don't realize just how big of a company Disney is, and that they own a lot of different companies.
I don't know if they still do, but they used to own Miramax.
The Pixar movies were gonna have the Disney logo because it was a partnership. It was a different kind of thing, and because they were animated movies, and it helped them a lot to have the Disney logo with them. This is another really good opening title sequence, I think.
It's interesting because in some ways it's very similar to the opening title sequence of Hulk, but it just gives you the Hulk origin.
Yeah.
One of the first shots we get of this movie is him in that chair. The exact shot from the TV show, I think maybe that one.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the first things we get.
And of course they were doing a lot of that with Ang Lee's Hulk too.
I mean, this is really kind of the TV show on a budget, but with more comic book stuff put in.
And that's what I liked about it. I'm glad that I finally went back and looked at a little bit of the TV show, because I didn't appreciate that the first time I saw it, because I hadn't seen that show at all.
Yeah, when this comes out, I'm probably still in the mode of, oh, well, I'm supposed to appreciate that show. And I've grown up enough that I'm just like, no, it's not that good. I don't like that show that much. It's real boring.
It's cool that right away we're doing this soft reboot thing, or just straight up reboot thing. We're showing how the origin is different, and having one of the most notable things I think being that Ross is there when he transforms.
Mm.
This is going to be another one of those commentaries that's going to feel a little bit like a first watch, or at least a first watch in a real long time. Because this is a movie I have done a rewind on, and I imagine a lot of my my thoughts and feelings about that movie are just going to come back to me as I'm watching this. Because right now it feels like a movie I have nothing to say about.
In the lead up to this movie, because I used to watch like the Comic-Con, like not called press conferences, the panels.
Yeah.
I used to watch Comic-Con panels for these things, and they did the thing that I kind of hate that we do with comic book movies sometimes, or actors do, and directors and stuff. We're like, Stark Industries. That was a big deal. It was already connected, like immediately, like a month later.
Yeah.
But it's that thing where, like, clearly everyone read, like, one thing, and it's the only thing that they talk about.
Yeah.
Dark Knight has that a little bit with, like, Long Halloween. Like, there's a couple more things, but, like, sometimes when we make comic movies, everyone on set clearly, like, read this one thing and was like, yeah, this is the thing, and everyone will think that we're really fans of this property. And with this one, it was Bruce Jones' run, specifically his first arc, Return of the Monster. I remember specifically him saying, "Oh yeah, we love the comics, Return of the Monster, all that stuff," and I'm like, "That's a run that starts well and ends badly. Like that's not the run I would have picked to be like, yeah, guys, we love the Hulk." But there's a lot of that in this. The whole thing with Mr. Blue when he talks on the computer, Mr. Blue, that comes from Bruce Jones in the Bruce Jones run. It turns out to be Betty, who at that point was thought to be dead, and the build to the Hulk is kind of Bruce Jonesy. His first arc on the Hulk, his first couple arcs, you don't have the Hulk until the last issue. It like builds to the Hulk.
In a way, this opens like you might expect the sequel to that first movie to open.
You could cut the credits off and watch it after, and I think it would mostly fit. Because obviously things are different in the credits.
It would be interesting to watch them back to back and see how the way the characters interact with each other and how they feel about each other is different. Because, I don't know, I feel like the way Ross looks at him and what the dynamic is with the three of them is probably fundamentally different. Maybe not fundamentally, but...
I think this is an interesting idea. I've heard a lot from specifically actors who are foreign and come to America that they use Sesame Street to learn. Like, I think Jackie Chan talks about using Sesame Street to learn. Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting, the idea of watching Sesame Street in another language to learn another language.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
And this city is just beautiful. You know, this is all clearly, like, on-location kind of stuff, and this is just a really cool city.
I don't think... and that immediately gives it some credibility. I don't think... Grover is an arbitrary choice because he's a monster. That's probably on purpose.
This is just the creepiest thing.
Yeah, that's mortifying.
I mean, like, it's really impressive, but oh man, it creeps me out to see it.
It's really cool that you have that much control over your body, but I don't want to keep watching you do that. I feel that way anytime people do stuff with their face, like people that can like wiggle their ears and stuff. I don't care. I don't like that. Like. Okay, good job. You practiced something for a long time, but it creeps me out.
Now, we kind of fundamentally alter what we did with the Hulk in the previous film, and this is a thing that we'll go back and forth on and change a bunch in the comics, just kind of writer to writer, but the idea that the turning into the Hulk is very purely adrenaline-based.
Nobody knew that house had a smiley face on it, but it had a smiley face. Adrenaline-based as opposed to...
Or pulse-based. It's pulse rate-based as opposed to an actual emotional connection.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter what sets him off.
Yeah.
It's a physical condition.
Yeah, which makes sense in a movie where you have someone who's going through, like, physical steps to, like, calm down.
Yeah. So they make it more of a Zen thing.
Yeah. That you could physically, like, even if you were still angry, you could lower your pulse rate.
Yeah. And of course, it's somewhat, I don't know if psychosomatic is the right word, but, like... You know, different things might offset a person and get them to that higher heart rate as opposed to other people. So it does have something to do with your psychology and your and who you are as a person.
So I love the thing.
Of course, the drink has to be green.
Yeah,
has to be green.
I love the thing with the girl. There's this girl that's real flirty with him, because in every episode of the TV show, he's the loneliest, saddest man. He gets laid every episode. He hooks up and falls in love with a woman every episode, and she's the woman of this episode.
That's great. It's also important to mention that, like Iron Man, this opens looking like a darker and grittier thing, and this movie is darker and grittier than that movie, but it doesn't look I think so.
More than the opening of Iron Man?
No, I mean the whole package.
Okay, sure.
The whole package. I don't mean the opening of the film. I'm just saying the movie overall is a more gritty thing than Iron Man. But what I was going to say is both of them open in such a way where they don't look like superhero movies at all. And you can pretty quickly put them in a category, or at least what kind of movie it feels like you're watching.
Do you think this is too easy? Just like a contrived, thing?
For what?
To get his blood on something. Like, it's like, oh, he cuts his finger, and then it falls, like...
Oh, you think maybe that's a little too contrived? I don't.
Okay, I'm just asking. I'm not saying it is or isn't, I'm just...
I feel like you're in a kind of job where that's likely to happen. Although... Yeah, I guess they do it in such a way where he's supposed to not notice that where it would make sense that he wouldn't notice it. Yeah, I don't think it's awful, as far as those sorts of things go.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's the worst, but why would you buy that one?
I've definitely seen
it's in a package. That's the only way it gets bought, is if it's in a package.
Yeah.
No one buys that individually.
Now, is it a little bit convenient that it's Stan Lee of all people that ends up drinking it? Yeah, maybe so. Maybe that's a little convenient, Eric. That drink does not look remotely appetizing.
You don't think so?
Maybe it's just in the setting.
It's funny. It looks like what I think Monster looks like. Because Monster is brown.
It looks like mellow yellow. Like it's almost that exact color and consistency. For some reason, the way he says that always sticks with me.
Gringo?
Yeah.
So, how do you feel about him as Bruce Banner?
I always liked his performance. I don't have a real strong feeling about it one way or another. I think he's good in the role. I think he's good as, again, the more TV version of that character.
Yeah, I always thought he was a real safe pick. Almost like in a typecasting kind of a way. He's done a lot of movies where he's the meek, unassuming guy that also has a real dark side to him.
And he's an actor I didn't know.
Because you obviously haven't seen Fight Club when you see this.
I hadn't seen Fight Club yet, yeah. And so I just didn't know that. I also didn't have... I'm the last person on Earth that should be doing a commentary on this movie. We're doing all... But the thing is, and this is a real weak spot for me, I had no preconceptions about this character, really, before I saw Ang Lee's Hulk. Hulk was a character I'd never read. So if I ever saw him in the comics, it was just when he showed up in other books, kind of like Iron Man. I had not read a single Hulk comic. I'm not a monster guy. It doesn't look like a superhero comic to me. He's not wearing a costume, I don't think, to read that when I'm a kid.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
And I've read a little bit of Hulk stuff here and there since then, and have enjoyed it. I like him within the context of the regular Marvel Universe, but I never... So... There's a lot of comic book stuff in this movie that completely went over my head, and that somebody had to explain to me later, or that I discovered as I got into comics and they popped up in more recent things.
Well, one of the things about Bruce Banner in general I've found is there are certain characters that it feels like everyone almost everyone that writes Spider-Man up until about maybe 2000, he feels like the same guy in every book no matter who's writing him. When he guest stars, he always feels the same.
Yeah.
Bruce Banner is not like that. It feels like everyone has their own...
Then, we jump around. Yeah, and he's not like Daredevil and Spider-Man, where you can like really easy kind of point to a couple of particular character traits. He gets reinvented a lot.
Yeah, I feel like everybody who comes on that book has their own take on that character, and he's not someone like Daredevil where like you can track like across, like starting with Miller going
how
forward.
He's developing.
Yeah, how he's developing, and like you know, even when we make the missteps, how like course correction, he always feels like the same guy.
But I think he's harder to sum up in a word or a sentence.
Bruce Banner. Well, it's because there's so many different ways you can do Bruce Banner. Like he can be a guy
especially
like
looking at the monster as a metaphor. Like there's
yeah.
so many. Yeah.
Well, and if you're doing the Peter David thing, where it's an aspect of his personality, if you're doing it's not an aspect of his personality, it's something kind of alien to him that comes from the body. Like, there are so many different ways to do that, and everyone wants to do their own way. I don't feel like Hulk is a consistent character.
Yeah,
across...
He's not always Jekyll Hyde.
Yeah. Sometimes Bruce Banner's just kind of a regular guy. Sometimes he's really meek.
Yeah, and sometimes he's practically or straight up a psychopath.
Well, that's Jason Aaron, right?
Yeah, but I'm not sure if Jason Aaron's the only person who's played him that way.
Well, I'm not sure, but like that's the one that jumps to my head.
Yeah, and I don't know if he's been played that way before that because here's the thing. Just based on what I've looked at, I think that's kind of my favorite version of him. I think that's fascinating, and we get to. I really like Stan Lee being a integral part of the plot the way he is here. I think that's kind of fun.
I like that he says "wow" and not like "Excelsior" or like one of his catchphrases. I like he just says "wow" like a normal word.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just part of the plot. He's just an extra that's roped into this story. That's really nice. He doesn't have to always be played for comedic effect. I like that we don't do that there. That's the closest he comes to just playing a guy.
Lou Ferrigno's cameo, however, is for comedic effect, and it's great.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like the more crazed or starting from a damaged and like victimized place we had in the Ang Lee movie, and then from there you could see him getting to a place where he goes to a nutso place. I kind of wonder if Jason Aaron wasn't looking at that movie a little bit, or if there were other things he was drawing from that I just don't know about.
I don't know. Like I said, I've learned I'm not a Hulk fan. I'm a Peter David Hulk fan.
Yeah.
I mean, I've certainly read some other Hulk stuff, but nothing's ever captured me like that stuff did. I like,
but he plays with Bruce Banner's ego real hard in that, and I kind of like the idea of his seeing the Hulk as an achievement.
Well, it's interesting because I
haven't read that in a long time.
I've never read it. I just kind of like know it's one of those ones because I'm a trade reader,
and it gets bad. It's one of those things that starts really well and then it goes on too long. Like the first couple arcs are quite good.
Well, doesn't it? It only runs to like 16. It's one of the books that that people always talk about being negatively affected by Marvel now.
Yeah.
Where like he had to like real quick, like it seems like he was going to have a run, and he's like, oh well, I got to end everything.
And is it Wade that takes over after him, or is it Remender?
It is Wade.
I forget.
It is Wade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that didn't work, and nobody liked it.
People liked the beginning of it, like that first arc, and then everyone.
What I heard was, because I didn't read it, or maybe I read like an issue. I heard people really liked the first issue, and then it kind of fell off.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like
Simonson draws some of that.
Yes, and it's really cool. Dan was reading that and reviewing it at the time.
Yeah,
I think that was a little bit like Grounded, where it starts in a really good place, like with Superman, starts in a good place, and then it kind of but for different reasons, because it's not like the writer left.
The genesis of that, I always think is a tricky place creatively, where he was told Hulk's not selling due to Hulk what you did to Daredevil. And that's a weird thing to do, because you're not approaching that character on its terms, you're approaching it on, I'm going to try and make it like this other thing I did. But it's interesting you brought up his ego in Peter David's run. Grey Hulk is his ego. He's a man without ego. Mm-hmm. And when we finally get to the merged Hulk, he's like a whole person. And he's kind of cocky, because it was building like as a separate personality on its own, and now it's all being mixed together. I don't know. There's some really interesting. Everybody seems to have their own
no confidence, and then all of a sudden you infuse it with it.
Mm-hmm. And the Ultimate version is interesting, where a lot of times we use Hulk as like repressed emotions, but that takes it to another level where it's not just it's everything. Like it's dark sexual thoughts, it's dark violent thoughts. It's really just like that deep down side of somebody. And he's a real broken guy. And there's less of that in here than I would have thought at the time.
Yeah.
Because there's certainly some Ultimate influence on Iron Man. There's some Ultimate influence on Avengers.
But again,
it's not really
might
here.
be playing it safe a little bit and being worried that you'll, be too dark and gritty for the overall flavor you're trying to go for with these new movies. One thing you have to really give this is that in not immediately having a mandate for every movie must feel a certain way, they are right away, as we've gotten back to now, making movies in different genres. So that tone will vary. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, keep going.
I don't remember where I was going.
Okay, sorry. They're clearly starting in that place because they go to like the exact opposite of Ang Lee. They get the guy.
That's what I was going to say. Is that, and then the other thing is that they would be afraid to get too far back to that and lose people.
Yeah, no,
and just be too depressing of a film. That's got to be why they took out the suicide scene.
Yeah.
Which needs to be here, and is the
does.
biggest misstep of the film that's not here.
There's another scene that's cut.
I can't believe we recanonicized something we took out of a movie.
Yeah, that's
in a later
cool.
movie. It's the strangest thing. Yeah, but it's real unfortunate because it makes it look like you retroactively added something interesting to a less interesting movie, when if you look at the special features, it was there already, which makes this movie feel even more superfluous. If that scene was here, at the very least, there's this one big plot point we kept for it. He's suicidal, he's ready to end everything because he can't control the monster.
Well, it's obvious. Well, and Joss Whedon's take on Bruce Banner is entirely different from this.
Which is interesting since that happens in the comics a lot.
Yeah.
Where even in the movies we're seeing that play out, where everybody has a different take until he establishes a take and it's popular. That's the important thing, is that once people finally like and understand to some degree this character, you can argue about whether or not the "I'm always angry" thing makes sense. Some people don't like that and don't think it works, but like people loved the Hulk in Avengers, and that's probably, in some ways, that's Whedon's greatest achievement.
Well, and it'll be interesting to see how much, because he's still the only person.
We were trying so hard. Oh, that's true.
It'll be interesting to see in Ragnarok how much.
Because I was going to say we solidified it, and that's how we're doing it. But if he's the only person that's written him so far,
yeah, because he's only in Avengers and Age of Ultron.
But whatever we do with him from now on, like, he's had an actual arc now. We've tracked him, and he's changed and grown in that mode he was in. So it's unlikely, because there'd be no reason to reinvent him from the ground up now.
Yeah.
We're not doing that with any other character. It's not like anybody's looking at Black Widow and going, well, she was way more interesting in this particular arc in the comics. Although
she changed. She certainly changes a bit from Iron Man 2 to Avengers.
Well, and from there to Winter Soldier. But the argument there is she's always a different person for whatever situation she's in. So that was a horrible example.
Although I don't think she's that different than Winter Soldier from Avengers. I think they're building on that.
We see this very different aspect.
We're seeing a different side of her.
Yeah,
she doesn't feel like a completely different person like Bruce Banner does.
No, but and some of that is just doing groundwork finally to tell us more about who she is, because we haven't spent much time with her. But she did, to me, in the theater in Winter Soldier, feel like a much different character. But different probably just means drawn in the first place. Oh, no, not that guy. Not the gringo guy. Oh, that was a cool flip. But yeah, that choreography and that just little bit of street fight was really good.
It's interesting, having watched Hulk recently, people always talked about like how like cerebral and confusing Hulk was, and that they clearly here we wanted to make it the action Hulk movie, and so we go get an action director. This is the guy that does the Transporter films. There's a lot of action in Hulk. It just doesn't work.
Yeah. There's also a lot of standing around in this movie.
Yeah. It's less artsy, but I don't think this is as far away from...
It's not like Ang Lee's Hulk where you're basically, in a lot of the early scenes,
in
especially,
like art film.
Sitting in a museum looking at a painting.
Yeah.
And it's still, with the exception of the opening credits, if you know what you're looking at, doesn't remotely feel like a comic book thing yet.
Yeah.
Or at least doesn't feel like a superhero thing. I mean, this movie's never going to feel exactly like a superhero movie until...
a little bit
we get a big
ending.
fight at the end, but that also could just be a monster fight before it's a superhero fight.
Well, that's one of the interesting things about the Hulk is that he's not really a superhero, and...
he just lives in that world like Punisher.
Well,
except that he's invented real early.
Well, and he's... But at least Punisher is like... You can make a superhero movie with Punisher. I mean, he's a superhero that kills people.
Costume.
Yeah, he wears a costume. The Hulk is... This is the problem with Hulk movies. Like, we don't know how to make a Hulk movie. There is no formula that you can apply to this character that you can't make Sam Raimi's Spider-Man with this character.
Yeah, and the thing Ang Lee tried to do was to sell it, this is going to sound weird, as a comic book movie, but not as a superhero movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a more of a pulp, like monster thriller, horror thing, but with that, psychological bend to it.
I once
and I think they tried to. I guess the point I'm making is, I think they tried to sell that movie as a superhero movie, and they also had those bits that were trying to be a superhero movie.
Yeah,
this isn't. This is smarter in not doing that.
Mm-hmm. This is much more of a monster movie. It's got more in common with things like The Fly than it does.
That's a great point. It's doing, and it's also doing a really good job in not trying to be too accessible. It's for the audience it's for, which I think it was a big risk. This would not have been my second pick.
Yeah, but it's the only name you have that you're not afraid of. Captain America and Thor are not safe bets.
Yeah, but they're superheroes. I mean, that's what's interesting about this is you ended your first movie in this universe, your Iron Man movie. By the way, so far, all of this looks like it's actually there. Yeah. Which is really exciting.
It looks really good.
And still holds up as well as it did then, I think. I mean, he's in the dark. That helps a lot. And his color scheme is not ridiculous. That's great. Yeah, you're right. And maybe some... I haven't seen this movie, but it reminds me of bits of things I've seen from, like, Predator, or, I don't know, maybe, like, Alien 3.
There's some Terminator in here, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, just keep naming action movies.
Well, Terminator, specifically, the endings where they're in the factory.
Right, yeah. And the colors palette, there's a lot of smoke. We're going to rename this series to Let's Sound Insightful. But yeah, I'm just saying that this is... I mean, you're right, that like Captain America and Thor aren't safe bets. I don't think Hulk is either. I think even less so. Again, it's not. It's you ended your last movie with somebody saying they're superheroes, and then the next thing you do is not a superhero, and also his one foray into the theater was an abysmal failure, and that wasn't necessarily just because of how strange and inaccessible that movie was. You can't look at that and know for sure that we just made the wrong movie.
Well, I mean, it did well.
Did it? I thought
it did not bomb.
Oh, I thought it bombed. Okay.
It has a strong opening weekend and a real steep drop off in the second weekend. It is very clearly that movie, but people wanted a Hulk movie.
Yeah.
But I do think by the time this movie came out, people did not need a Hulk movie.
I don't know how well it ultimately did in the overall, but
it did well enough that they were talking about a sequel for a little bit. Not just like the pre-movie comes out talk. Like they were talking about a sequel for a little bit.
Forget what I said. Well, then that might be why they made this. Where it's like, okay, there clearly was interest.
Mm-hmm. Whatever you do, if you ever do a Hulk movie again, you gotta do something real different.
Yeah.
The problem is...
I think what you do, it would be the most ambitious thing ever, but you finally do Talking Hulk, and he's the Hulk in most scenes.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's That would be the next place to go.
Wow, and people keep saying Planet Hulk, and I don't want that to be the next Hulk movie. There are still too many Hulk things to do. I feel like.
Well, that should be the next stage of his evolution, I would think, is that Bruce Banner turns into the Hulk full time finally.
Well, and that's
a big comic book thing we do all the time.
Yeah, that's Planet Hulk into World War Hulk and all that stuff, where he's just Hulk is the character of the book, and Bruce Banner's barely there.
Or you can do the split off. And if you did the split off, that allows you to have Bruce Banner in scenes without the Hulk, and to not have to do that to do the visual effects for every single sequence. Mm-hmm. Like if he's a smart talking Hulk the whole time. And of course, I think there are several different comic arcs that attempt the split off thing. But that's something I would like to see. Is the monster separated from the man and having to go up against each other? Yeah, that's a thing. And again, I know Jason Aaron does that, but he's not the first person to do that.
No. That happens. It's funny because.
But part of the fun of that book was Hulk is the good guy in it, and Bruce Banner is the villain, and I really.
John Byrne does that. I don't know if you know this. John Byrne has a started run. He gets like 8 issues in, then leaves Marvel altogether. And he had like a planned like I am going to remake the Hulk, but he just kind of set the pieces in place and then left. And so somebody else
is supposed to be like a Walt Simonson Thor thing, and then it goes away.
Yeah, but one of the things he did was he split the Hulk. And it's one of the things. There's a writer after him before Peter David, but when Peter David comes in, he's left with all this baggage. Where like Rick Jones is Hulk, Bruce Banner is not Hulk, and like all of this stuff. And he has to real quick wrap it. Those first 2 issues of Peter David's run are rough because it's just him going, "We're done with all of that now. We're doing this." I really like Blonsky. I think he's one of the... It's interesting. I think he's one of the more engaging villains we've had. Like, just as an actor, like, I feel like he's doing something in his performance that makes me like him more than a lot of the other just villains we've had.
And, of course, he's not a straight-up villain in the first place.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he helps out like the actor,
he has
but...
a real motivation And he's a good foil for Bruce Banner because they both have the same kind of arrogance and ambition at the beginning.
I don't think he's...
So they both have an ambition that leads them to become monsters.
I don't think he's actually old enough for the character on the page, though. Like, he talks about, like...
You don't think he's old enough?
Because he talks about how, like he wishes he had his body 20 years ago, and like, if I could put the brain I have now in the body I had 20 years ago...
I forgot about that, yeah. And he just doesn't look that old.
Yeah, he should feel like he's past his prime, and I don't feel like he's past his prime.
Yeah, and just the general dynamic between him and Ross. Ross is talking to him like a much younger man. So you're saying he looks like a guy who's in his prime?
Yeah.
But again, we look like we're in exactly the same place we were at the end of the first movie. That's or at the end of Ang Lee's movie. That's really interesting.
He's also got purple stretchy pants.
Yeah.
Did you know that in the Hulk he wears purple stretchy pants? The Hulk in the comic wears purple stretchy pants.
Oh. I bet the Hulk fans are going to really get a kick out of that.
Yeah.
This is all gorgeous, right?
Yeah, no,
just all this location shooting.
No, this is beautiful.
Which is a thing that Ang Lee's Hulk did some of too, but it didn't get as exotic as this.
Look how short he is, or he's real tall. I'm not sure which.
Yeah, but he definitely doesn't look like a 25-year-old man. I mean, he's 35, maybe pushing 40.
Oh no, absolutely. But the way he talks about it when he decides to do the Abomination stuff is that, like, he's real past his prime and he wishes he had that body. I feel like he could be in an action movie as the lead and you wouldn't think twice about him, like, taking people down.
Maybe so, but what you're basically complaining about is that it's too realistic. Because a guy that age in real life would feel that way. I mean, you think about how early or how young you are. There's the Lonely Man theme, which I love, by the way. This is an argument my wife and I have a lot.
Does she not like this?
She hates it, and she wants it to die, and she's wrong. She's just wrong.
Oh, it's the most beautiful thing in the world.
Yeah, it is. And she thinks it's sappy and just bad, and I don't know what she's talking about.
Oh, I don't either.
I don't know what she's talking about. But anyway,
it's a good thing she's not on this count.
Think about how young Yeah. I mentioned it to her. I was like, do you want to do this one with us? And she was like, I've seen that once, and I don't remember anything about that movie.
Other than the Lonely Man theme was in it, and I hate that.
I don't think she would even remember that.
Oh, look, purple stretch pants. Oh, he doesn't have purple stretch pants for. He has the pants that are broken that are too big for him.
But I was just gonna say, like, think of how young you are when you retire from like wrestling or boxing or
yeah, it's true.
Basketball even,
Maybe it is more realistic, but not movie realistic. When movies like Taken exist.
I mean, there's a reason that when we've had a draft, we only draft between certain ages.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And he's so I think you can get away with that as long as you're well past draft age, which he would be.
I can't remember his name, and it's really bothering me because I really like him.
I never knew it.
He gets a big kickstart in the '90s because he works with Tarantino a bit. He's Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction.
I think, in a way, it's unfortunate that the first Hulk movie existed, and of course, this movie wouldn't be made the way it is without that.
I think this movie would be way better remembered more seen.
And specifically his performance, which is what I was going to say, because I think this guy is really good as Thunderbolt Ross, but they cast the perfect guy for it in Hulk, like you said, and his performance is just not as interesting. It's right for this movie. He shouldn't be doing what was going on in the other movie, but that performance is just interesting, and he's got a lot going on behind his eyes, and this guy is real grizzled in comparison, and kind of world weary.
Yeah,
and he doesn't have that passion behind it.
Yeah, he's
because he doesn't have the hatred that guy did for Banner. That's a more interesting kind of rapport, I think.
Yeah, he's more just worn down.
Yeah. I just wish I did not have that other performance to compare that to. Because I do not remember him.
Yeah. Yeah, when he came back in Civil War, I was like, yeah, I guess. That's cool. So yeah, he's about the age he looks. That makes sense.
Yeah.
There's also this real weird thing when we introduced him, where, because his name's Emil Blonsky, which is a real Russian name, because he's a Russian character, they're like, oh yeah, he's like Irish, but by way of Russia, or something of like.
Oh, that's funny.
There's a real weird like throwaway like, he's Russian.
You know where else the name Blonsky comes up? Mask of the Phantasm. That's one of the mob guys that gets hit by the Phantasm.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Or is it Bronsky? I think it's Bronsky, Mr. Bronsky.
It might be Mr. Garibaldi.
Yeah, it's not Mr. Garibaldi.
Are you sure?
No.
You have to watch that movie.
I always, that's fine. I mean, I'd happily watch that. We may have to if we ever do this with DC movies, we may have to sneak in a couple of animated movies just because.
Well, Mask of the Phantasm counts because it's a theatrical run.
Yeah, but
although we didn't do,
theatrical
run.
I was doing live action theatrical for this. Well, which is why we're skipping Big Hero 6.
Yeah.
But some of DC's better movies are animated, so.
Yeah, Under the Red Hood.
Or at least a couple. Yeah.
Dark Knight Returns. That'd be a question. If we did animated stuff, would we do Dark Knight Returns as part 1 and part 2, or would you do it as that
we do it all
feature?
Together. We do it all
I never watched it like that.
I haven't either.
But you've got it, right?
Part of the reason we do it that way is because that's how I own it.
Yeah, okay, well. I own it the other way.
I'm sure there are some names there, right?
Lester Richards, Quinn
No, but
Scott.
I mean, they backed it off, and there were more names. There were quite a few names.
I'm sure there were.
I bet there are some names there.
I don't know.
I don't know that we've been to one set yet. Like, I think everything we've shot so far
is location. Yeah, you're right.
Is location. I don't know what this college is, but clearly this is a real campus.
Yeah. It's probably Vancouver.
So, I'm real quick. I'm real curious to know how you land on this, because this is the movie, and a lot of people, I've definitely talked to people that don't agree with me on this. This is the movie that turned me around on Liv Tyler.
Really?
I used to really not like her as an actress, and some of it is that she's aged a lot since Armageddon, so she doesn't look like a little kid to me anymore.
She does facial expressions that irritate you, doesn't she?
It's not that Sort of. It's not her fault. It's that, maybe we've had this conversation, it's that when I look at Liv Tyler, and I don't have it as much in this movie, but with things like Armageddon, when you go back, and she's supposed to be like a real sexy love interest, when I look in her face, I can imagine precisely what she looked like as a little kid, and the movie loses me.
I've never had that.
It just completely takes me out. I've had that with a few actors and actresses here and there, and just kind of a baby face thing. And I can't get behind her as like a real cool love interest, or if she were ever to play seductive, I couldn't deal with that. I had that with Drew Barrymore, and not just because she was a kid actress first. I think I would have it with her anyway. But I like her in this.
I've always thought she was super attractive, and I've seen her more seductive-y in Jersey Girl.
Yeah, I've never seen that. But you've always talked about that movie.
It's real sappy. Like, it's a chick flick, but it's made by Kevin Smith, and I like it. It stars Ben Affleck. I like it. I'm not going to apologize for liking that movie. I'll sit down finally and watch that just because I like Ben Affleck. And I would be interested in seeing her in other things because I didn't give her a chance, and then I saw this movie, and I was like, So anyway, how do you land on her in this? Is she just serviceable? She's
fine.
Okay. But it's not like her fault. I really like this joke.
There's Lou Ferrigno.
Yeah. I like that we clearly wrote a part for a fat security guard.
And it's Lou Ferrigno who's
and then we cast massive. And then we threw Lou Ferrigno in there.
That's great. Oh, and he thinks he's like that until he stands up and he's like, oh my god. So I've met Lou Ferrigno. And he's a super cool, nice guy in person, and of course, he's partly deaf. Something I did not know about him is that he has continued his whole career, and still does to this day, to take acting lessons.
Interesting. Do you know that he voices the Hulk in this film?
Yeah.
And he voices the Hulk in the animated series, which he has a great Hulk voice. Why didn't we use that in the 70s?
He's also in a really good episode of the fan film Star Trek series, Star Trek Continues. He plays a male Orion, and he's a real presence in that. It's really cool that they got him to do it.
He's on a show I watch. Silicon Valley. He's on Silicon Valley. He's one of the makers of Silicon Valley. He's a really funny guy. I don't know what he's doing here. I don't know what he was doing at this time, but he's a really funny guy.
But it sounds like he probably gets typecast as dude that sits at a computer.
That's probably true.
He looks like a dude that sits at a computer.
Yeah, with Betty, I don't think she's fine, but I don't think it's her fault. I think it's there's not a lot on the page.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a really interesting character. I was just surprised that, for whatever reason, I liked her in this.
Now, something that no one talks about in this with this movie is all of the behind-the-scenes drama that happened before the release of this. Do you remember any of that?
No, I don't know if I ever knew about it.
So there's a longer script to this movie, and there are scenes that are cut. One of them is a really big scene that's really important, and I'll talk about that when we get to where it's cut.
Does the movie make less sense, or would have been way better with it?
Would have been better.
Oh, man.
There is a big argument between...
So like the gun of the mouth thing.
Yeah, yeah. We have a scene with Doc Samson where he psychoanalyzes Bruce Banner. And
that would have been good, because honestly, like, we're this far into this movie, and I still don't feel like I really know what makes this guy
And the
tick.
beginning of that scene is in the trailer for this movie.
So it looks like it's going to be a more psychological film.
Yeah, yeah, and apparently there was a big debate between I can't think what his name is, the Hulk, between him and the director. He tried to re-edit this movie. Apparently he did a pass on this script and rewrote it a bit. This is the first movie that I'm following production of where I'm hearing about him rewriting it, and then when I see the final film, his name's nowhere in the writing credits.
Yeah.
Because he tweaks scenes, and the way writing credit works is you can rewrite it. You can rewrite the entire script scene for scene, rewrite each scene, and you won't get credit. They care more about what you're actually adding to it, as in adding new scenes, taking things away, like that kind of a thing. So apparently he does a rewrite
so revision
of this.
Doesn't count.
Yeah, so apparently he does a whole revision on this script and makes it more intellectual, more psychological. And that's the movie he wanted, and there's a big fight over the cut of this movie. He wants a much more intelligent
That's
cut of the film.
unfortunate, because then it looks more generic. And the thing is, it's not a stupid movie, it's not an unintelligent movie, it's not a cerebral film.
Mm-hmm. And apparently there's a more psychological cut of this film, and I've always wanted to see that cut.
Well, because that sounds like it might have been a sober version of what Ang Lee did.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it necessarily would have been, as tragic.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be a metaphor for mental illness like that movie is.
And that guy's Doc Samson, and he's a working actor. He's on, I think, Modern Family. He's on some sitcom.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that's who he's supposed to be. Her boyfriend is Leonard Samson.
And again, in the theater, I didn't know who that was.
Who's a psychiatrist.
This is another really TV show looking show.
Doc Samson's
really, just anytime he's walking, but especially because he's in the rain.
Yeah.
And at night with cars driving past.
Doc Samson's a great character that we don't use enough in the comics anymore. I'd like to see him more in the movies, too. Like, I'd like to see him come back. He doesn't have to get superpowers and be, like, superhero Doc Samson. But I'd like to see him come back. Like, I want to see in Avengers where they all get, like, a psychological profile and he's the guy doing it.
Yeah, the problem is this far out now, and maybe even at the time...
You could recast him and no one would care.
I was going to say everybody will think it's a new character.
Yeah.
Like, nobody will even think that you went back. Like, you think that's neat because you know this movie, but most people don't.
Why they brought Ross?
I would argue, yeah, that's true, but
he's a little bit more integral to this film.
And regardless of that, Bruce Banner has no supporting cast. In those movies at all.
Yeah.
And
we
if
mentioned
anybody knows
vaguely.
Yeah, if anybody knows the comics, they know about the Rosses.
Mm-hmm. And all this feels way less important now that he's moved on and been with Black Widow, and then...
Are we about to get Hulk dogs? Is that what happens next?
No.
Is that... Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's good. I don't need that twice. Don't you think that there are probably some people that aren't even necessarily aware that this movie is in this continuity?
I'm sure
I bet there are people that know that don't. And I mean people who saw it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sure there are people that have grown... Because this franchise is old enough now. There are kids that have grown up with these, which is crazy to think of. I mean, 8 years. So if you were 8 when this started, you're 16 now. And, 16, 17. And there are probably... And so, like, there are probably some kids that started with Avengers or have watched the ones that appealed to them, and a lot of people probably missed this. But I bet there are people who were adults when this came out that have watched every Marvel movie and are not aware that this was part of that continuity, just because we never call back to it. If they're watching casually.
I talked about to you at some point. I don't know if it was on one of these videos, but how, like, when Avengers came out, it was a really big deal that I brought my little brother to see it because it's a really big deal, like, just for film. And I'm like, well, anyone that's a little bit younger than him will never understand that. That's just how these movies are made.
That's right.
Yes, of course all of these characters were in all of these other movies.
Yeah. And already we're to a point where that novelty has worn off, and that's just what you do now. Mm-hmm. And it's not even impressive how hard it is to get schedules together and all of that. Like, Avengers, man, I clung so hard to that feeling because I knew I would never have it again. And you heard nearly every critic, when Age of Ultron came out, say...
It doesn't have the charm of the first one.
And a lot of people apologetic towards it, saying, there's no way to recreate that. We've already done that. Mm-hmm. So like, we made history. The history's been made. It worked. It was successful. We're gonna keep doing that. Like, now it's a model.
Yeah. Little did we know we'd do it again the next year.
Yeah.
Oh, there's
the next year. I don't know what you're talking about. Like,
Civil War. We would do it again even the next year.
After Age of Ultron. Yeah. And that has really solidified it as just how we make some of these movies now. I don't think people are going to Doctor Strange and upset that 15 other superheroes aren't in that movie.
No. Okay.
Forgive me.
I have a thing with the shot that really bothers me.
Like that she has her shirt off?
No, that doesn't bother me at all. I will never complain about that. No, they're both sleeping on the same side of the bed. They should be sleeping on their sides of the bed.
Yes.
Because they sleep together and they each have their sides, right?
Yeah, and they miss each other. And
yeah.
Boy, that's a...
It's bothered me since
that's
theater.
That's a misstep. No, that is a real... you're right. That's not how I would have shot that.
Mm-mm.
I think that sounds that may sound to some folks as a real nitpicky thing to say, but man, I would go as far as to say that you don't even necessarily understand what they're conveying there if they're on the same side. I never even thought about that.
Yep, it bothers me.
They just look like two sad people. They're supposed to be two sad people that are sad because they're not together. That's
yes, they should be missing each other in the
and imagining each other on the other side of the bed where they're supposed to be in their minds.
Yep. So yeah, that's the thing.
I'm glad we did this just to hear you say that. That is such a wonderful point.
I've always thought he does an amazing job being in pain here.
That's exactly the facial expression.
Yeah.
That you would make if something went under your spine. Ugh.
And we talked over...
there's a guy that gets no credit.
Yeah. Well, and we talked over... we mentioned Captain America and the Super Soldier Serum and all that.
Right.
Well, we don't name Captain America, but we mentioned Super Soldier Serum.
Yeah, I really liked that we... that the Hulk... serum is connected to that. Or serum, the experiment.
It's trying to recreate that in some way, which I think we do bring up in Avengers.
Mm-hmm. We do.
That's all very Ultimate-y.
Because I think we let Captain America know about it.
Yeah.
If memory serves.
Yeah. And I think that I'm glad
we do a great job of setting up the movies we're going to have here in a couple of years.
I'm glad we don't overuse that, because that's what will end up happening in the Ultimate Comics, is everything comes from that, or is an attempt to recreate that.
Don't mutants come from that?
Yes.
Or is it some other serum?
Is it
connected?
It's related. If it's not that, it is trying to make that again. And Wolverine's the first.
Well, that's
thing,
okay, because if we're not going to make everything come from the Super Soldier Serum in these movies, we'll make it all come from the Tesseract. We'll have the Cosmic Cube be the MacGuffin that gets most of the balls rolling.
Immediately, by putting this in a place with people and things to hit, these are immediately more dangerous and more engaging than all of the helicopters and tanks in Hulk.
Well, it also helps that we didn't spend 5.5 minutes establishing them on their way from different angles.
It's true. It's true.
And it is. I should mention it is difficult not to just sit here and compare this to that other movie.
It's true. It's true.
Partly because we just watched it, and I've never had this experience before, and we were commenting a lot on its merits.
Mm-hmm.
But also because you can see a lot of intentional course correcting.
Yeah.
They're thinking about.
Yeah. No, they are absolutely thinking about it. I'm almost surprised the military's in this at all. Like if I sat down to make this, I feel like one of your first instincts would be, okay, so we're not going to have the military in this movie.
It would be
maybe really Ross, but not the military.
Wouldn't it be hard to contrive a situation or where you never had the military show up to try to shoot the Hulk?
No, just everyone thinks he's dead.
Well, I know, but it seems like the military would show up to fight the monster.
Yeah, but
when
not
the monster happened.
Yeah,
you just mean you wouldn't make the military a plot point.
Yeah,
they're a force.
I wouldn't have made them
movie.
as much in the movie as it is. Not that I'm disagreeing with the choice. I'm saying when you're just brainstorming,
you'd be afraid of it.
Yeah. I've always been really bothered by him swallowing the thumb drive. That's the thing people do, and I can't imagine doing that.
Yeah, I can't either. And I'm really impressed, Bruce Banner, that you have that kind of control over your body. Yeah. But I don't want to see... Oh, and I never thought of this. That's why he can do that!
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
Because he's been working on physical control.
Yeah.
Wow, I was making a joke, and I got to an understanding of the scene. Once again, I love this location.
And we're going to reuse something that looks just like this in Amazing Spider-Man with the lizard fight. For people in theaters that did not see the first one or do not know the Hulk, I believe her saying "Dad," yelling "Dad," is a reveal.
Yeah, that's right. I think you're right about that. I mean, that only works if we haven't gotten her last name yet, but I think
we just call her Betty.
No, you're right. That was supposed to be a reveal in the theater, which I had to like remind myself of because I know who that's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But that's kind of smart of them too. That they're, I mean, like that's a real risky choice, but that they're keeping in mind people that didn't see that movie, or even if they assume everyone saw that movie,
that they're not
at the same time as they're course correcting, they're also trying to make a movie that stands on its own.
Mm-hmm.
They're remembering that they're telling a story, that they're telling a first story, not a sequel.
So this is the first time we see the Hulk,
and it's great.
It is. He looks really good.
I think he looks really good. I think he looks more real later. That's a bad choice.
The zoom.
I don't like that.
Yeah, no, he doesn't look as good as he'll look in the Avengers, but he looks as good as he could in the year it came out, I believe.
Can I make this argument? Close up on the face. It certainly looks like a visual effect, but tell me if you agree with this. We've seen him Hulk up once before, and as soon as we did the exact same shot. I don't mean they reused the shot, but we do the exact same shot in the same angle of him growling with a big close-up face shot. I don't know that I would have done the exact same growl twice like that with the exact same shot. Not in love with that.
So if
it's kind of iconic looking. I think we've had comic book covers.
Yeah.
Maybe or at least panels. That's what the front of the box for Hulk Ultimate Destruction looks like.
Yeah. I
think.
So if I can put my superhero fashionista hat on for a moment.
Yep.
This Hulk has the best Hulk hair. Of all of the Hulks that we've gotten in the film, he has the best hair. It's the way the Hulk's hair is supposed to look in my brain. The Avengers Hulk is... It looks like that guy's hair. It doesn't look like the Hulk's hair to me. That's supposed to be Rick Jones.
Okay. Really?
I think it's going to be retconned, and it might only be established in the novelization by Peter David, but that's supposed to be Rick Jones.
Oh, interesting. Okay. That's a thing I would have liked if we tried to make him a character.
I'll try and pay attention for it in Iron Man 2. I wonder if it says Rick Jones when they're playing the footage, because this is the footage we're seeing in Iron Man 2.
At the racetrack. Or no, toward the end of the film.
Yeah, because this is happening. Theoretically, this is happening while Tony Stark is fighting
Whiplash.
Yeah,
there's a lot of action going on in the MCU right at this moment.
Not as much as will be going on in later years.
Because remember, Tony Stark, you're in a larger universe now.
Well, I guess you know what the Hulk does pre-exist. I mean, he's not a superhero.
He's not a superhero.
Yeah, there are fantastical things though.
Yeah, but Nick Fury doesn't necessarily know that he and Bruce Banner are the same person. I mean, that might be information that Ross has already given to S.H.I.E.L.D. We don't know that. Yeah. Right now, he's playing it close to the vest like he's the only one that knows.
Yeah, well, and at this point...
I don't know who else he's told.
Still a newly created organization.
Right.
I mean, in the making of the film, obviously... I've always loved...
Okay, so they're going to have no problem with Venom in this universe, right?
Yeah.
They've already got guns, right? They have anti-Venom guns already.
How cool would it be if Venom showed up and then the army showed up with these?
And they brought that out? That would be the best!
That'd be paying attention continuity. I love how his hair looks.
They need to go back and look at this and remember that they have those guns. Because as soon as they have Venom...
Yep.
When they learn what, like, Venom is wreaking havoc and he's destroying everything, and then once they find out what, you get the bell, and then... Oh, we got an app for that.
I love how his skin ripples to the sound. Like,
that
looks real good.
Really good. And I like that he doesn't feel like such an all-powerful monster like they were trying to make the Angry Hulk.
Yeah. No, obviously it's some heightened technology that's stopping him, but I really like the way that they're using the Hulk here.
Yeah, you gotta wonder where that technology comes from, because from your previous film you get the sense that the only person that has that kind of tech is Tony Stark.
Maybe it's Stark Industry made.
But you also have other...
Maybe it's Hammer Tech.
You also have other geniuses in the Marvel Universe that might be able to make a thing like that. Because, I mean, let's also try to put ourselves back in the year this comes out, you're imagining all of the places they could go and everything that the Marvel Universe has to offer that they might use. Now, it's hard to go back and watch this and not just think about what we have already, but when you... Because like this exists in a world that we've been spending a lot of time in now. And we've seen all these different aspects.
I love how he ragdolls when he hits that tree.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks so painful. It looks so painful. Well,
just
and
notice how much more engaging this action scene is than any of the action scenes.
Yep.
In the other Hulk film.
Well, and this is I guess, thinking about like,
I love that we get a good perspective shot so we can get a sense of just how much taller or how much bigger he is.
But he's not absurdly big like in Hulk.
And he doesn't keep changing sizes.
Yeah. But, given that we had Iron Man, the Iron Man ends with you're not the only superhero in the universe, we'll basically find out that the Marvel Universe starts with Iron Man.
Yeah.
But when this comes out, you don't know that.
No.
You don't know anything and everything could have already happened. Could already be in play in some aspect.
Yeah, I mean, we're playing realistic enough that you have to assume that nobody knows about certain things. But you could have vigilantes roaming the streets.
Doctor Strange could have existed at this moment.
Yeah.
Like, in secret,
And so could Thor.
Yeah,
we just don't know about him yet.
Yeah. And, well, I guess Thor does exist. He hasn't been to Earth much.
Well, that's true, but he could have been to Earth and done things and just somehow kept it a secret, or heck, he could have his human form, and he is
Donald Blake,
he's doing that right now.
Which was not a given, that he would not have the Donald Blake.
Was not a given. Some people were kind of upset they didn't go there, but it's been so long in the comics since we've done the Donald Blake thing. I wouldn't have expected it.
And JMS brings it back, and then no one knows what to do with it after he leaves, and I think we just stop doing it. I don't know if there's ever a resolution to that. Because he's in Fraction's run, but he doesn't know what to do with them. And I've only read the beginning of Fraction's run.
It's raining a lot, Eric, because this is a sad movie.
I don't mind that.
No, I don't either.
It's Vancouver. It rains a lot in Vancouver.
Would you stop that?
See, he's more of a character in this movie, in this scene. Like, it's very clear to me that he has more scenes in this movie.
Yeah, because he's got a take. He's clearly spent some time developing this character that nobody's going to remember or care about after that.
Yeah.
So now instead of the dad who's having to try to play referee with a relationship with his daughter that's a mentally disturbed thing, it's the relationship of like he's the lawbreaker, like he's bad news.
And I don't get the impression that, like in Hulk, they're not a broken up couple. They were a couple that breaks up because he turns into the Hulk and he runs away.
Yeah.
Not like in Hulk where they have been a couple and didn't
he comes
out.
back and they want to be together again. There's not...
Which is real sad for Doc Samson.
Yeah.
This is a scene that comes from Hulk Gray.
Yeah.
He doesn't look great in the rain. All wet like that. I don't think he
You don't think? I was always kind of impressed with
now that he stepped outside, in the cave, he looks... I don't know.
I always really liked it. I was kind of impressed with it, actually.
I mean, she looks great, but...
She's not a visual effect, though. She's just a person in the rain.
She looks great in the rain.
He just gets struck by lightning. And then he gets angry and he throws a rock at a cloud. I always thought that was the best thing.
Which comes from Hulk Gray. This whole sequence... not exactly context-wise, but it kind of comes from Hulk Gray. And there were people who swore up and down, I'm sure these conspiracy theory videos still exist on YouTube, where they circled like a bit of the cloud and like, see, that's Thor. And Thor is in this movie.
What?
Yeah, no, that's a thing.
That's silly.
Yeah. Yeah, no. People were trying to read this as like a nod to the Hulk and Thor rivalry. And that's him yelling at lightning because it's Thor. Yeah, no, it's...
We haven't changed that much, have we?
No. No.
People still have a tendency to do that.
Yeah.
They like try to read in as far as they can and find a lot of circling that goes on.
Yep.
See that in a lot of YouTube videos. A lot of people circling stuff.
Yeah, that still happens.
Oh, it happens a lot. It's in a lot of thumbnails, you know, and like the Easter egg.
I bet you
videos.
the early Easter egg videos have that as an Easter egg. Did you know
And there's
Thor
probably
was Incredible
there's
Hulk?
probably a thumbnail where they've circled a cloud.
I guarantee you it's there. We could probably find it.
The choice of his coloration is great.
Now, a thing I really like here is that
He looks like he's part of the rocks.
Well, I was going to say that he doesn't change back.
Yeah,
We're
okay,
treating Hulk
yeah.
like a character, and she is interacting with him.
Yeah. But are we treating them like separate characters?
I don't know, and I don't think this movie knows.
That's
they
the
hint at
thing
the end that they're one and the same,
Yeah.
but this movie doesn't have a specific take, I don't think.
But I think that action scene is trying to play it maybe like we're supposed to be invested in the monster because he's still the man, or because
There's
the man
definitely
is
some
in there.
Bruce Banner in him, because I think he describes it as like a dream, like he can kind of remember it. And then later he'll say that he thinks he can channel it and like control it a little bit, like direct it.
I just feel like some of the way they shoot that, and I guess I should say, like they animate him with facial expressions and things. It's like they're trying to communicate to us without coming out and spelling it out that we're looking at the same character we were looking at before.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's supposed to be him affected, I think, in this movie.
Well, and again, they treat it like a physical condition.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a guy with a disease, and this is what happens to him. And again, in Ang Lee's Hulk, he's that way too, but it's a mental disorder.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's at least a metaphor for mental disorder.
You know, I've been to a number of hotels and things and motels.
Yeah.
They're not always covered in grime and dirt in the bathroom. Every movie, you go to a motel, it's covered in grime and dirt.
Yeah, nobody can ever find the nice, clean motels.
Yeah. I've been...
I definitely have been to really crappy hotel rooms that, like, I don't want to sleep in. I mean, once or twice I've wound up in a hotel, like, motel like that.
But it's not the majority of them.
Like
and,
no.
and I've been to ones that are really crappy and run down, but, like,
they're so
the bathroom
clean.
still doesn't look like that.
Yeah, where, like, the furniture's falling apart, and they need to, like, vacuum the mattresses or change the mattresses or whatever.
That's gross.
Yeah. I like that reaction. Wow. It's like with Stan Lee.
Yeah.
Everyone's so realistic in this movie, Eric. They say "wow" when a person would say "wow."
Do you see the
see
the stretchy pants? See how smart you are for knowing comic books because you watched a YouTube video?
I don't mean to take pot shots against that. Some of that can certainly be useful.
Well, and some of it's fun when it's really weird, obscure stuff.
Yeah, it's something
But
that you wouldn't have noticed. Or
we count those kinds of things too.
I'm much more but it's okay when you're saying, here's a list of all of the things
Yeah, it says Rich Jones on
that
the
came
TV.
for sure. No, that's cool.
He's the one that names him
From
Hulk.
the comics.
He's like Hulk. Is that real national forest? Do you know?
I think it is. I don't know.
Would that tell us where this movie takes place?
Well, this movie takes place in lots of places.
Yeah, but this whole town, I'm not really sure. Maybe I missed like a card that says like you are the. See, they don't throw the letters on the screen every time we cut to somewhere, so I'm not really sure where I am right now.
They don't throw it right in your face. Prague. Okay, we get it. We're in Prague. Here's the thing I don't think I've ever said before. She looks really good in plaid.
Yeah. They're very sad. This is a nice moment.
Yeah, it is.
it's real nice that we're letting this movie breathe and like have this.
You know, you still get the sense that it's hopeless in that these two aren't probably going to be able to stay together like in the other movie, but the difference is that in that other movie he just feels like even out of the Hulk there's something like wrong with him.
Do you think we could bring her back?
I think that would be potentially a really bad idea.
Really?
Yeah, because they have reinvented that character.
Yeah.
If you did that, you would almost want to give our new Bruce Banner a new Betty Ross.
Okay, could you bring Betty Ross back? Not even just the actress.
Yeah, but I think you'd have to recast her. And it's weird I'm saying that because I wouldn't think that with Ross, but I just don't think it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm. I really like that scene. That's a real nice like human thing where like he can't even like have sex.
Yeah.
Because that's adrenaline. That gets your pulse rate up. I think that's a really nice little moment, but also doesn't cross a line for kids.
Yeah, they don't go too far with it.
It's just them kissing, and then he's like, I can't. It is both mature and appropriate for children. I like it.
And kids just aren't going to know what they're looking at there.
But that tree took you out.
Eric, you're going to have to fly solo for a minute. I'll be right back.
Okay. And now he's talking to this other guy, and they're talking back and forth. And he's just pissed off ready for round 2, which is a phrase that I used to use sometimes, but I haven't in a while. I really like that in this sequence, he just goes like, you can't use any of this, and then she's like, what about this and this and this? And he's like, well, okay, you can use most of it, but this right here, these things you can't use. I feel like that's the thing that happens in conversations a bunch. Of course, we'll take the money. You could rob a bank. Oh, I forgot about this. That's a thing that comes out of nowhere. That needs to be set up somewhat before we just do it there. That was a mistake. It feels more like a plot contrivance. I wonder if in the longer version of this film that's more set up. It's real out of nowhere. Oh, there's this thing that I could sell to get us money, but it's a real strong emotional attachment. I don't know about that. And then we mentioned S.H.I.E.L.D. So, there's a thing I forgot about. That's, there's a thing I forgot about that's, they need money, and Betty says she just pulls up this necklace that we haven't seen before in the film, and she's like, well, I could pawn this. It's like a diamond heart. And he's like,
Are we sure we didn't see that earlier?
I don't think so. And then he's like, no, that's all you have of her left. We established this like real sentimental piece of.
Oh.
Yeah.
Weird. Yeah, that should have been there earlier, probably.
That's what I told the people.
Yeah. I agree with everything Eric said. I'm sure.
Good.
Is that S.H.I.E.L.D?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I forgot S.H.I.E.L.D.
They
was
said
actually
they
in the
added
movie.
Mr. Blue and Mr. Green to the S.H.I.E.L.D. word search database thing.
Oh, that's okay. So, something I was trying to
That feels
articulate.
real dated, right? She's got a camera.
So I was trying, but it's digital. See, it doesn't use film. It's futuristic.
But it's not a phone.
I was well, yeah, but at the time you would have like smartphones would have had okay cameras, but any other phone, you wouldn't want to use that camera for what she's doing right then. Also, they're selling me okay on her being intelligent and.
And is she a scientist in this? I'm not sure.
See, I was just about to say being a scientist. I don't actually remember. I'm not sure. So I think I was trying to articulate earlier that I didn't really get out is that obviously the big difference between these two Bruce Banners from these two movies is that one of them was a victim and had this done to him, and the other one did it to himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, this is a
And that
conversation
immediately
about
changes everything.
we're asking what the Hulk is, but the movie doesn't have an answer. Well, and he has more personality. He is not someone who had all of his emotions repressed, and like he's real.
He's a real person. His humanity was taken away before.
Yeah. Whereas
and so
the other take is a real inhuman kind of unable to connect take, which is not what this is.
Yeah.
Which
so,
is also
he has a real mental problem. So it's not just a metaphor.
Mm-hmm. Which is also a thing that we change from run to run in Hulk is whether he's just a guy that had this happen to him or whether he's someone with real problems.
If there's a metaphor here, it's physical handicap.
It's don't radiate yourself.
Except it's a handicap that you get yourself because you were, doing scary scientific experiments.
Yeah.
For the right reasons, of course. You had your heart.
It's really all a metaphor not to play the knife game. That's really what it is.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Don't play games with life, and don't play God, and all my morality comes from
still not sure
films.
where we are.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Okay.
New York subway.
So we're gonna have a scene that I think is genuinely funny and does not fit the tone of this movie at all. What is this scene doing in this movie?
Looks like it should be an Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
This is the scene that wakes up people that are bored and have fallen asleep watching this movie. I think this is a really well-made movie. Once again, I don't think it's for everybody, and I can see why people might be really totally bored.
Although this joke is good.
Could I make the argument that if you don't know anything at all about the Hulk, I'm not sure you necessarily really appreciate what's going on. You might even understand what you're looking at. I don't think this is a hard movie to follow. I'm just not sure you care yet. I don't know.
Yeah, that might be.
What is the demographic this movie appeals to that isn't familiar with the source material or anything connected with this movie?
Yeah,
I wonder.
I don't know.
It's a fugitive movie. It's a chase movie.
Yeah. I think he gives a really interesting performance.
Oh, I think he's wonderful.
Yeah, me too.
And he's the first actor that shows up and knows he's in a superhero movie, or knows and knows what the source material is. I think, and gives you the sense.
I love that movement.
I think even if you don't know that guy is supposed to turn into a comic book villain, it suddenly feels a little bit more like we have a more kind of heightened comic book character.
Well, it's interesting because he's very different.
I say heightened. I mean, that. Certainly, you can have an eccentric, quirky guy that shows up in your movie where people are, we haven't seen anybody like this yet. Everybody's a lot more even keel and
he'll
understated.
Show up, later in while we're going through the films in Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's interesting. He's completely different from the leader in the comics, or the leader in the comics. A thing that we do with gamma radiation, I guess we don't really do this anymore, but gamma radiation brings out kind of your inner side and what you really want. So Blonsky just wanted to be strong, so he keeps all of his mental faculties, but he becomes Abomination. Jennifer Walters was a meek girl that wanted to be a party girl, so when she becomes She-Hulk, she's far more confident and things like that. The leader was a janitor who was a dumb guy who wanted to be smart.
So he turns into a genius.
But
here it's a genius that
who will
turns into
become
a leader.
Even more
genius-y.
Yeah.
And the rippling head thing will mean nothing to you if you're not aware of that.
It'll still mean nothing to you.
That's what I'm saying. It's a thing we set up like it's gonna really mean something later, and maybe we were being too ambitious with that, not really having much of a direction yet for these movies. You don't do that unless you have a plan. And when this movie is already kind of a risk and you're not sure you'll ever make more,
Well, I think they probably maybe didn't know if the universe thing was going to work necessarily, but they probably thought they would at least get a sequel. Because in the beginning, it seems like the plan is we're going to do... Like, Phase 2 would just be all of the sequels.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a problem that they set up a villain. I think the problem is we never made another Hulk movie.
Yeah, and he doesn't show up in any other plays. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to complain that he doesn't become the leader in this movie necessarily. It's kind of impressive that you might try that kind of a slow burn.
It's part of...
It's just
Marvel's
in hindsight,
not great at payoffs for setups.
In hindsight, this is frustrating.
Yeah.
Because I really like his performance.
And I want to see him as the leader.
Is the leader... Because I don't know really anything about that character. Is he telepathic or telekinetic?
Yes, he can control people's minds.
Okay. That's really interesting since for the longest time in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. they think that mind control is impossible. Or that telepathy is impossible. That's the big place where they draw the line. Like, nobody thinks that's possible.
That's dumb.
And that's why the clairvoyant was supposed to be a big deal, and then turns out to not be clairvoyant. And so we still, for a long time, don't know for sure if that's possible.
I hate that. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is in a place enough where you can't do that anymore. Like, if a vampire shows up, no one can say, "What? Vampires? What? You can move things with your mind?" You can't do that.
Well, I mean,
Thor
once we get to Inhumans, all bets are off because we have all these different superpowers,
But I would assume people in Asgard can tell the future and can control people's minds.
This transformation looks really good.
Yeah, it does. It's kind of American Werewolf in London-y in the face, but all digital as opposed to...
I've never watched that.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. And even if you don't like the movie, you'll have to be impressed by the transformation because it's all practical and it looks amazing.
Really?
Yeah, it's one of the best werewolf It's the best werewolf transformation that's ever been done.
Neat. Practically did the same face again.
Yeah.
We're doing that on purpose.
That's what he does when he comes out.
Yeah. I don't know. Are there a bunch of panels where we do a huge close up on the Hulk grimacing like that? Like,
probably.
Maybe that's why we're doing that. It's purple like his pants.
I wonder if this Hulk...
He has purple pants serum.
I wonder if this Hulk has any retention of memories, or if every time he transforms, it's like it's being born.
Yeah, because that's not really a thing we know. It certainly is the former by the time you get to Avengers.
Yeah, absolutely. But then we're doing...
He clearly remembers everything.
Yeah, but then we're doing a very different thing.
Well, is it, or is it just we know for
sure? Well, this movie's kind of vague, so...
Yeah.
At least in the Hulk stuff. The Bruce Banner is clearly different.
Yeah.
The Hulk, I think, in this movie is vague enough they don't come down firmly on what it is that... The Avengers doesn't necessarily contradict it.
I mean, his characterization is certainly somewhat soft rebooted, and obviously the performance is totally different. At the same time, he's also at a different stage in his character progression, where now he's figured out how to control the Hulk, and this is a guy trying to get rid of it. So he doesn't want it to be a part of him. He's trying to figure out how to cure himself of it.
Well, and I wonder how different it would feel if he still played the role, because I would imagine Whedon at least start scripting with the assumption that he will come back.
I'm sure he would write it somewhat differently. I would think, if he still had this actor. You would just remember they didn't survive.
Yeah. So why do you have them still?
Well, that's what you do. You have to study them to see what to do right next time.
I guess that's true, but I would think you would get rid of one and move on to the next.
That's what Dan did with the Doomsvitz clones. He kept them all around.
But why would you keep all of them? If you're doing a process, you would examine the one, get rid of it, do the next one, and then examine that one. You wouldn't keep all of them.
Well, it's like reverting back to old save files, you know? Like, if you get too far along and it doesn't work out, you're going to wish you still had that so you have some place to start where you're not going totally back to the drawing board, you see. Maybe he's just a collector, I don't know.
No, that'll come in Guardians.
Oh, I didn't say he's the collector. I said he's a collector. He's a collector of his own failed science experiments, his genetic engineering. That's gross.
Yeah. I feel like the drama of this could be played up a little bit more. That there are just bags and bags of Hulk blood.
Yeah.
It feels like it should have been...
it doesn't feel like a big enough deal, because this whole time you're like, when do the stakes get bigger?
It feels like it should have been a bag, not a room full of bags. Oh! I have a whole thing that I could do with that, but I'm not going to. Not going to talk about Prometheus.
Yeah.
Not going to do it.
Well, that's cool. We're already at, the government is after this because they want to make it a weapon. They want to control it.
Yeah.
We're already, and we probably don't even realize it, setting up an argument for why we might need, alternative heroes in this universe, because we can't trust the people who are supposed to be protecting us.
And that's obviously going to follow into Avengers.
And exactly,
Soldier.
because of what we do with the Tesseract. And
I like how disappointed he is. He's really good in this.
Yeah.
I really want him to come back. He
maybe represents what's wrong with the military, the government at large, in Microcosm, where he wants. Well, sort of, kind of. I mean, they're after things for different reasons. Obviously, the government wants power because they think, that they can be trusted with it. So I mean, like, it's not a totally like it's not an evil thing necessarily.
I wonder, going through this, I think he might be a much more standout villain than we ever talk about him as.
Yeah. Because we always say the villains are really weak, and I don't like the design of the monster. But,
yeah. But
that's all we
ever
talk about.
Yeah.
Is that he looks like Play-Doh and he's real bad.
Yeah.
Now, I could argue that there's not enough levity in this movie overall.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to call it a joyless movie, but it feels uncomfortable when you're laughing because you're like, oh yeah, there's.
They're playing all this real straight. I really like this.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't love that. Maybe we went a little too far with the Abomination line there. I don't know.
The joke that Matt and I have always had, because we've gotten away from this, but we used to do this where we never actually said the name.
Yeah.
And we would just put the, like, you could be the Abomination. You want to be the War Machine?
There's this big giant, the Hulk, running around.
That's a nice human moment. You wouldn't have gotten that in Ang Lee's Hulk.
Yeah, I do
kind of affection.
But I do kind of wish we knew more about their early relationship and stuff, because...
But I like how they're playing it. Like,
yeah, I do
they're in
too.
it together.
But being thrust in the middle of it, I mean, I'm glad that we don't have flashbacks or a bunch of forced exposition and stuff. But at the same time, I kind of feel like I came into the party too late.
This film starts in the second act.
Kind of. I mean, I have to praise it for not feeling the need to be an origin movie again and for getting away from that. And the Adminis Res is good, but
it might have been nice if they've
accidentally made it so that I don't totally understand their affection for each other because we don't get to spend time with them doing anything but running or laying down.
It might have been nice if we saw... There it is. It might have been nice if we saw some of... Ooh, that's real creepy.
Yeah, it's real creepy.
If we saw some of Betty... Some scenes with Betty before he gets to her.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like, this movie is largely him cut to military, until we get to Betty. It'd be nice if we saw some of Betty before he gets there.
I don't know, maybe find a way to put a more full-on leader thing at the end of the movie. Like, I don't think with that sequel bait would necessarily have been bad. It happens early enough that it kind of feels like we're going to come back to it.
It doesn't bother me at all. It just bothers me that we're how many years out now? 10?
Yeah, I mean...
And we haven't come back to it.
Overall, I agree with you, but just experiencing this again...
Mm-hmm. And S.H.I.E.L.D. would have been a great place to do it.
The problem is, when I was... Yeah. Especially because that's his power, and he's talking about wanting to be a god, and I don't know. Or not himself wanting that, but clearly he wouldn't say no.
Mm-hmm. Someone asks you if you want to be a god, you say yes.
You say yes. But I don't know, in the theater I kind of forgot about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of this is not nearly as interesting as whatever that would have been, you know?
I don't know, I like this fight.
Do you? I never really.
You never liked this fight? Oh, I like this fight quite a bit. But I'm also more of a monster movie guy than you.
So now we're on the set of Luke Cage, which does not
ever
realize that this happened. Apparently, it's really weird that we don't get a mention of that.
It's really weird. You know this is your fault, right? You know, it's weird that here wouldn't be his moment of clarity. It's when he has a stroke on the back nine.
Get your cure cartridges! Oh. Did he just shove it in his own face?
I think so.
Did he just take a missile and go, ugh!
It's kind of what it looks
like. Take that, sucker!
It's a real unfortunate design.
It doesn't look as bad as I remember.
No, you know what? I'm having a similar thing.
I've seen Doomsday since then.
Yeah, oh, he looks way better than Doomsday.
I hate to say.
It's not a great design. There could have been a bit more character to it. I mean, obviously the comic book character's a little bit more amphibian looking. I actually think...
The face is real Mario Brothers Goomba.
Yeah. I actually
Which is the thing people like to go to for everything, but this really does look like that.
Well, we'll get to that in Amazing Spider-Man.
Yep.
But, so I with the last one I talked about how, or with Iron Man I talked about how they launched Fractions Iron Man the same month. The same month as this starts Jeff Loeb's Hulk run with the Red Hulk. And
I forgot he talks.
Yeah. And that's an Abomination thing. Abomination talks. He keeps all his memories and thoughts and everything.
But that's kind of cool. I don't mind that at all because he works by a different set of rules because of the mixture.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't know what would happen with that, and it makes him more of a force to be reckoned with because he's got his wits about him in a way that Banner doesn't when he transforms into the Hulk. Where this guy is in control to some degree.
Yeah. So
You've upgraded your armor!
there's no way that they could have done this because of timing, because Jeff Loeb's Hulk starts when this movie comes out. But Rick Jones turns into the Abomination. He's called A-Bomb, which is just the dumbest name ever.
But sounds like the most Jeff Loeb thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. But the actual design of A-Bomb, I think, is a really cool design and would have worked well here.
Who drew it?
It's Mick something.
I remember thinking I wasn't sure I totally bought this jump.
Really? I like it.
That he can be sure that he'll turn into the Hulk before he hits bottom.
I don't think that's what it is. He's hoping, but I think he's also gonna be kind of okay if he just hits.
I'm not with you on that.
No?
No, not
Yeah, well,
not
I guess
with
here.
Yeah,
you're right.
yeah, and not with the speech he just gives her.
Yeah.
The reason he's risking what he's risking because he says I've got to stop him. He would be real unsympathetic if he was like, well, whatever. If I die, then this thing can just destroy Harlem, and who cares? Like,
McGinnis.
No,
McGinnis.
this is supposed to be a real heroic thing.
Yeah.
And in a sacrificial moment, and he expected to turn into it. But anyway.
But yeah, the artist is Ed McGinnis.
Oh, okay. I like him.
I like him on Hulk.
I feel like I've liked him on other things.
I don't like his Superman. That's the only big other thing.
And that was the big shot that this movie was sold on everywhere. And it's the cover of the DVD.
And he never had the shirt in the trailers. That's the thing that we didn't have in the trailers. I don't know why I remember that, but it sticks in my brain. And this was the trailer. The ending shot of the trailer was them running each other and leaping.
Oh, that's kind of fun that they break the Apollo Theater sign.
Yeah.
I liked it because it's New York. We're using real places. We always did that in the comics.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it was like a Rocky reference because...
Well, no, the Apollo Theater, it's a real place.
No, I know it's a real place, but Rocky 3 ends with Apollo and Rocky going slow motion, and then
yeah, you're right.
It might be a layered thing.
I don't think they were thinking that, but it's cool that they broke a real thing.
Deadpool was probably the...
And something you haven't seen broken in comics before, or in movies like this before. Like, the thing you expect is the Statue of Liberty.
Mm-hmm. And this comes straight from that video game, Hulk Ultimate Destruction. You can do this in the game.
Uh-huh.
It's not a comic book thing. And that's really cool.
And it's... Okay, so... I'm going to answer a question that you posed earlier, because I think we have enough evidence for it. Mm-hmm. He definitely remembers what's happened earlier.
Yeah, you're right.
Because there's a progression of the S.H.I.E.L.D. thing. He came up with that earlier, and now he did it on purpose with a cop car, and he's got bigger ones. Like, he's learning. Which is great.
Yeah.
Ah! And I'm also not fully sure how much Banner remembers of what, but he seems to maybe remember everything the Hulk did.
Stuff? Well, I think he says he remembers it like a dream. Like, he kind of sees it. Or he kind of remembers it, but not in the first person. Like, he can kind of remember... I don't know. I think that's how he describes it.
Or does like a dream simply mean it felt like it didn't happen because he wasn't in control?
Yeah.
But he still knows the details of it. It would have to be like in the first person because he's still looking out of the same eyeballs.
Yeah.
Like, I just think you might be interpreting the dream thing, and you know, I mean, all you can do is interpret it, but... Oh, I forgot that we go up on roofs.
Yeah.
This actually is really cool.
Yeah, this is a real cool fight.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like the scope of it. Like, just how much ground we're covering. It feels really
comic book.
Yeah. Yeah, and suddenly it feels more like a superhero thing because we're up on rooftops. Mm-hmm. Isn't
They're
that
flying on rooftops?
Isn't that interesting that the first Marvel movie that gets up on rooftops is Hulk? This is all really good, actually.
Yeah. Williams.
Like whatever with his design.
Yeah.
There's not a shot I have cringed at.
And his design isn't as bad as I recall. Well, maybe that's just speaking post-Doomsday, but...
Yeah, I mean, it's real hard not to let other things you've seen recently,
Yeah.
affect the way you go back and look at something.
Because I've always hated this design. I've always remembered hating this design. I don't hate it. It's all in the face. I wish his face was a little bit
That's
different.
it. Yeah, the rest of it's kind of fun.
And maybe if he was more green. But that's more just a comic book fan thing.
Yeah, because I don't know jack for anything about the Abomination.
It'd be nice if he had fin ears.
Yeah?
That's the thing he is in the comics.
Yeah.
I like that. But yeah, no, the design itself isn't bad. It's just, I think it's because it's gray, and it's the face.
It's really a functional design, because I'm enjoying this fight. So there's a reason.
And when he grabs his back, and it the bone spikes crinkle under his hand. That's cool.
I mean, I guess the most important thing is that it looks ugly enough, based on
the name,
the character arc, and and also what he wants.
Yeah.
That he wishes he was back in his prime. He wants to be a super soldier, and he ends up paying for what he does by turning an Ez.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's bad. That's not a good sign.
That's unfortunate.
Hey, I know you're fighting a monster, but we could use some help over here. I punched him in the armpit. That's mean.
I'll take it all! Oh.
That's cool. He uses the spike on his
elbow.
Though.
That's painful.
Yeah.
Wow, I haven't seen this in so long. I don't remember any of this.
He's gonna yell soon. No, I mean he's gonna say words.
We just said some words. Is he gonna say more words?
Hulk, yeah.
Oh no, I thought you meant the Abomination.
No, Hulk. I was wrong. I thought that's where he, and that's the Thunderclap, which is one of my favorite comic book things.
Yeah, and all the, the few comic things they do with him seem to be pretty well placed, I think.
Yeah.
And subtle enough.
I'm gonna watch.
It's not just fan service.
I like this. I like they use this stuff as weapons. That's cool. I want to watch to see if there are places in the Avengers films where the Thunderclap would have helped, but he doesn't do it.
Yeah, I wonder why we got away from it.
Or maybe we don't. We've just forgotten.
I don't think he ever uses it, but I don't remember.
Ow.
I don't tend to memorize fight sequences, Eric.
This is where he talks.
Yeah.
I don't like the pause. It should just be Hulk smash. I don't like Hulk.
I don't mind
smash.
it.
I don't like it. I thought I said Hulk as strong as there is too, but I must be wrong.
I think that's all he does.
Yeah. I would like a Hulk that talks more.
I remember in the theater thinking that was really cool. I mean, I obviously they're trying to make you wait for it, but it also kind of makes sense that he would think for a second, try to decide what word he was going to put in there, because it doesn't come from any place.
Mm-hmm. Ooh.
And he's never talked before.
Yeah. I wish
he's not a wordsmith. He's not going into his lexicon.
I wish that was a thing that tracked. Hulk starts talking more across the film.
That would have been great.
Because I like a talking Hulk. I don't need him to be
full
soliloquy, but yeah, I like a talking Hulk. That's how he's always been in the comics. I mean, when you go back to the early Stan Lee stuff, he is full sentences.
Is he?
That doesn't come till later. The broken speech thing does not come till later.
But he's not a smart guy or anything, right?
I mean, he's a thinking person.
Is he?
He does schemes and plots and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Which will later be what Peter David uses as the Grey Hulk's personality. But yeah, no, he's a talking guy.
I honestly did not remember this movie looking this good.
Yeah. It looks really good.
That is the place that they most learned from that other movie.
Mm-hmm.
And also, we had come...
Well, and it's probably smart...
We'd come a real long way already.
It's probably smart. I mean, it looked really well. It looked really good in that daylight scene, but it's probably really smart to have this fight at night.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it looked good enough in the day. But you notice that even when he's in the daylight, it's still overcast. We never put him in direct sunlight.
Mm-hmm. And we're in a place now where we can do that, and we do that. He's in direct sunlight in Avengers.
But you already could have done it still better here than before.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Partly because the technology's come farther. I mean, if you look at Pixar movies the year Hulk came out versus when Incredible Hulk came out, we've come a long way.
Yeah.
And different software and stuff. I like the green blood.
Yeah. I wonder if that's consistent.
I don't know if it makes sense that he bleeds green, but
I wonder if it's consistent. I don't know if it makes sense. I don't care if it's consistent.
Well, yeah, but like you still have the same blood.
No, he's different. He's irradiated.
But the idea that that all the blood in your bloodstream would change color when you... I mean, maybe.
The idea that your body could expand with mass that isn't there?
Well, no, I know, but, like, blood is the color it is because of what's in it. Like...
Maybe different stuff's in it.
Yeah, no, I never thought of that before. I'm sorry about something I can't remember.
Klingons bleed different. Does that bother you?
Well, no, it's the transformation.
It's that he has red blood and then he has green blood?
Yeah, he goes back and forth like that. Like, is he... When he's the Hulk, is his blood based on a different kind of... on something else? Like, I don't know, that's kind of weird. Because, like in Star Trek, Vulcan blood is green because it's not based on the same thing our blood is. So I'm just wondering, like, what green blood... Like, what is it?
Mm. That makes sense. Bruce Banner would be a tea guy. He would not be a coffee guy. And there's that necklace that we set up moments before the third act.
And of course, the David thing there is a throwback to the show.
So this is a big thing, speculatively after this movie and leading up to Avengers. This last shot here, and the writer of this film, or one of the writers of this film, Zach Penn, talks about it. The intention of this and the smile is...
That he does it on purpose?
If Incredible Hulk 2 comes out before Avengers, it means he's in control of the Hulk. If Avengers comes out first, it means he's evil. Like, that was the intention of that scene when written. Was like, you can interpret this in one of two ways.
That's cool.
And it kind of does both. I mean, not that the Hulk's evil in Avengers, but Avengers does come out first. In fact, Iron Man 2, 3, and Captain America 2, 3 also come out before Incredible Hulk 2.
Well, and the thing you have to ask yourself in trying to interpret that is, when does the suicide attempt happen? Mm-hmm. Is it after that scene? You see what I'm saying?
I think it's before this movie.
See, I'm not sure when I watch Avengers. It feels like that was supposed to have happened after this. But if that scene had still been in this movie, it's before. So
this scene is maybe the most doesn't make sense moving forward after credit scene.
Yep. Because they don't go to the Hulk for that purpose.
Or Abomination.
What do you mean?
Because he's in possession of Abomination. Theoretically, that's why Tony Stark goes to him.
Oh, I never even thought of that, of course.
They hand wave it in those two Coulson shorts that they did. That came out right before Avengers.
We like to use those to retcon stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? I've never watched those. I've never watched any of those.
Yeah, one of them basically explains they intentionally sent Stark knowing that it would piss Ross off. and that he wouldn't work with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So does this movie not have an after credit scene?
No, that is it.
Because we always think of that as after credits, but it's not. It's in the movie.
I always thought of it as mid credits.
But it's not. It's in the movie.
It's like Fantastic Four. We cut to black and then we have a scene.
Yeah. Honestly, I kind of wish we would keep doing them like that.
I wish we'd just be consistent.
There's a part of me that, yeah, because you're making everybody stay all the way through regardless of what you do. To the point where it's becoming a public service to let people on the internet know whether or not they should stay through the credits. Because the thing is, if it was 30 years ago, it's no big deal to stay through the credits. The credits take 15 minutes now.
Yep.
You're sitting around all day long waiting to... And I mean, like... somebody like me that studies these things as much as I watch them for entertainment, I like the chance to soak in the score, and I'm like you, where I like to see what the like thank credits are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a big one with the Marvel films moving forward. Is I like to see who gets thanked, because they always thank whoever they like pick stuff from their runs. So it's always,
and it's fun to see what runs they think they borrowed from, or that they were apparently borrowing from. Especially if you didn't notice, where you're like, where was that in this? Because you've had that before, where you're like, that guy, what does that have to do with this movie?
Or where I'm like, well, this person clearly should have been in those credits. There's one in Iron Man 3. Yeah. I think it's Fraction. I think Fraction doesn't get named in Iron Man 3.
That happens a lot.
Yeah. And Fraction should clearly be in the credits.
That doesn't make any sense, because that's Extremis, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Warren Ellis is Extremis, and he's name dropped, but there's a lot of stuff in that movie.
Doesn't Fraction do things with Extremis that movie takes, or is it just his post-Extremis stuff?
Yes and no. It kind of.
Okay.
But there's some visual stuff that they do with Extremis that comes from a different thing that Fraction does that's clearly visually inspired by it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some other stuff in there that's kind of Fraction-y. It's clearly influenced by that run, and I might be wrong, but I feel like in theaters I was like, that's a mistake. You should have name dropped him, or maybe it was Kaminsky didn't get.
Matt Fraction is one of those guys where if he was a friend of yours, you wouldn't be able to just say his first name. You'd have to say his first and last name because that's such a cool name.
Well, it's not his real last name.
Oh, is it not?
It is. His name is Matt Frishin.
Oh, okay.
And online he was Matt Fraction, and when he started writing comics, the only people he knew that like he could sell it to was people on Warren Ellis's forum, where they all knew him as Matt Fraction. So that's like a pen name. I don't even know if that's his legal name.
Yeah, I will be stuck with Captain Logan for the rest of my life.
Yep.
I bet.
Yep.
As we all know, now my first name is Captain.
Yeah. Middle name Buster.
You you were right about that fight scene.
It's great, right?
It's really cool.
Yeah. It doesn't go on too long.
No, but it's thrilling, and I can't believe the atmosphere of the roof stuff. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, the big drawback to this movie for me is just that we don't spend enough time fleshing out those characters.
Yeah. And I wonder if that
impressively, it makes me kind of feel for them, even though I don't totally get them. But it would have to, right?
Yeah, and that seems to be what
if
it
it's
was.
About the psychology
was that it was all the character stuff that gets cut.
I don't know if this is on purpose. It almost plays like a mystery what exactly the identity is until you get to the... Because we were kind of sussing it out, as we went through, we were like, okay, I feel like you have enough information now that you can tell that, like, this much of Banner is in the Hulk, and, et cetera, et cetera. And so, like, on that level, it works, but I'm impatient about it.
Yeah. And I really think the big thing...
The score is quite good here.
I really think the big thing with this is that it's just none of this is followed up on.
Yeah.
And, like...
It's a superfluous
of everything that I wanted followed
part.
up on and still want followed up on in this movie, Ross was the last thing.
Yeah.
I never needed to see him again. He's fine.
Yeah, and he was kind of a a non-entity in Civil War. We didn't really need him.
Now, what I do like is...
I'm saying that could have been anybody. I don't think it matters that it's Roth.
Well, that's what I kind of like is, like, clearly it's just like, well, we need a military person. Why not just use General Ross because we have him
Fair
there.
enough, sure. You can make the argument either way.
Yeah.
You could say, why not? Or you could say, well, why not make it just some generic person? Well, because you have someone in the universe already.
Yeah, who's that kind
who's
of
been
character.
around, you might as well.
Yeah.
But it's weird to put him in a movie without the Hulk, I think.
Yeah, that's true. I kind of like that. It makes it feel like a bigger universe. He doesn't only show up on Hulk's.
But you hope he shows up at some point in a thing now that involves the Hulk, maybe.
Soundtrack available at Amazon.com.
Yep, it says that right now on the screen. Yep.
That's just a weird thing to have in your credits. Is that a thing we usually do?
Maybe they paid money to get that.
Have I been asleep for 8 years? 10 years?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe sometimes we do like say here's where you get the soundtrack. I don't know.
What if there is an after credit scene and no one knew about it?
Yeah, I didn't realize that scene was before the credit. That's the only one that does that.
I'd forgotten that it was
Ryan.
Yes, yeah. Well, and it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Because it's okay that Nick Fury thing is buried and some people missed it. You want people to know Iron Man and Hulk are in the same movie universe.
That's real important. You're right.
Yeah.
But it makes me wish that we continue to do it at least sometimes, because, as I've said 100,000 times, that Winter Soldier after credit scene needs to be the end of that movie.
Yeah.
You need to see him go there. And they act like it's not an important scene, and I think if it's going to be there, it needs to be in the movie.
Yep. I've listened to that commentary.
I don't know if I have. I forgot.
It's two guys hanging out watching a movie they made. It's not super insightful.
That's
Tim Roth.
Sometimes
Tim Roth
those
is
are
who
fun.
plays Blonsky.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
What other things have you seen him in?
Obviously Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction. He was in Hateful Eight a couple of years ago. I'm trying to think of the other thing.
So he does Tarantino things.
I'm trying to think of the non-Tarantino things I know him from. But I'm.
See, it's been so long since I've seen Pulp Fiction that I wouldn't have recognized
He's the diner
him in
guy.
that. Okay.
Yeah, he's the one that tries to rob the diner and Sam Jackson's there. I'm trying to think of other things I know him from.
That's on my list of non-superhero, non-science fiction movies I've got to do a rewind on at some point.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, and what's left to say that people haven't said already? Yeah, the movie's been picked apart, but
I'm sure there's books on it.
Oh yeah, definitely. But that's true for Fight Club too, and I didn't let that deter me.
That's true. I don't know. Fight Club's a different beast to me. I feel like you can watch Fight Club and Pulp Fiction.
Have a different read on it.
Pulp Fiction has so much. It's almost like 2001 in a certain way, where people have speculated endlessly about what does this mean, what does this. I wouldn't want to talk about it.
Yeah. Well,
good luck with that.
I'm gonna let it stop me before. Anyway. All right, thanks always for watching. We sure appreciate it. Tomorrow we're gonna come back with
X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Is that before Iron Man 2?
Yes.
Wow.
It's the only Marvel movie in Marvel's skip year.
Okay, we'll have to decide how exactly we're gonna approach that one.
We've talked about what we're gonna do.
Oh, you know what? No, we have a plan, and we're gonna stick to it. And I love it when a plan comes together. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. We sure appreciate it. We'll see you tomorrow. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
See you, folks.